Alright, so I recently finally finished up Just Cause 4. Got some footage here of me playing through the DLC a bit. This was actually my first experience with the series, kind of. Like, I remember when the second game was big and new, hearing about the series, and I played it a little bit, but I don't really remember how, whether I was playing, I think there was a demo for it, or I was playing someone else's copy. Either way, my experience was rather minimal and not really memorable from back then. And that's nothing against the game, I just spent that little time on it. I remember the two big things I heard about the series, though, were one, that the grapple hook was kind of fun, and two, that the map, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't verify this, but I think a lot of people were under the impression at that time that Just Cause 2 had the biggest open world map for, a well-known game. Fast forward till recently, and I don't know, I was looking through some games and thought it was time I finally gave the series a shot. I decided to start from the latest game because that was just kind of the one I was most interested in, mainly because I felt that the extreme weather situations that you would go through in the game sounded pretty interesting and unique. Overall, I'm not gonna lie, it wound up being a little disappointing in that regard. I don't know, maybe I came in with unrealistic expectations. I don't know what I really expected at the end of the day, but I feel like that extreme weather gimmick, there was pretty much one mission for each weather type, maybe one more if you're lucky. So it wasn't used a lot, and even when it was used, I felt like a lot of the times it just sort of affected visibility and wind, which once again, it might be one of those situations, well, what did you expect? But I don't know, maybe there is ways they could have gotten a little more creative with it, or have at least utilized it a little more. As for the other two main things with the series that I knew of, I mean, the map size is as big as expected. I think 4 is only slightly bigger than 3. I looked it up a while ago, so maybe that's incorrect. But it's still considered to be, one of the bigger maps out there. But things are a little different now, especially when you've got stuff like Minecraft, for example, where it's sort of a procedurally generated, infinite seeming world, which is, just kind of a different thing from a large, predetermined world. That being said, it did definitely have, a bigger than usual feeling for these kinds of games, which I feel like is a kind of a double-edged sword. Like on one end, you got a lot of different biomes, and you feel like your missions and your route to said missions are unique each time because they just have so much real estate to work with. But at the same time, you kind of lose specific, areas and landmarks that you like going back to just fuck around in, or you're familiar with enough to maybe give you a little bit of an edge in different scenarios. So I wouldn't say I prefer one or the other, though. I feel like there's definitely a place for both. The grapple hook, though, I mean, I'll admit for a long time I underestimated how fun grapple hooks were. Like, I kind of remember them from, like, Zelda, Arkham. I think I mentioned this when I played through Halo Infinite within the last year. Just how fun grappling around really is. It's an absolute blast, and the wingsuit that I believe they added in 3 is so fun too. It's really fun to go back and forth between the two and move around really efficiently. I am almost a little worried because I guess at this point I'm planning to go in the opposite order. I'll go from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. But no, I know in 2 I'm going to lose the wingsuit. So right now it's almost hard to imagine, the game without it. But we'll see how it goes when I get there. That is one thing I will say though, is I feel like it's super fun to navigate through, the missions, or even a short distance to a mission from a drop-off point. But I will admit flat out that it's not really fun to travel an extremely long distance if you just kind of get unlucky with your drop-off points or decide to travel on foot on your own. Oh, yikes, you're seeing me struggle here to figure out what to do. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call that a bad thing. Just once again, one of those things. I know some people don't agree and will probably say fast travel isn't necessarily a good thing to rely on if the world isn't, fun enough to navigate long distances on your own, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. Speaking of the DLC here, though, I haven't played a lot of modern expansions. Hell, I feel like that practice has generally gone away for cosmetic bullshit. The latest one I could think of was Watch Dogs 2, which was more Watch Dogs, which was fine, but I feel like I enjoyed this one a little more just because I feel like they got very experimental. Like this gameplay loop you see of, oh, here, I think I finally figured it out, of what to do, was a lot different from base game in both, tone and gameplay. And it was like that for all of the DLC. You had another one that was sort of combat racing focused, and another one for the hoverboard, which sort of revolved around that, which of course the hoverboard was super fun. And I would definitely look forward to that being in, the base game for the next Just Cause. It's just definitely another fun way to get around. I don't know if any of the story part of the DLC is canon, but like I said, they got experimental, tried some stuff. I think it worked out for the most part. Not even just the hoverboard, but just some of the other stuff I saw I would like to see more of. Add to the variety of the game in a new one. Not that the game really had a variety problem, I mean, I feel like there was only like a handful of mission types. Because the main game loop is revolving around you. Oh, I remember this. This person just would not die. How many times did I melee attack them here? Holy shit. I think I just about gave... Oh, no, I didn't give up. Maybe that was someone else. And whatever was going on there. Oh, yeah. To be fair, that doesn't happen a lot. Occasionally, yeah. Enough to where it's fun, but not annoying, in my opinion. But yeah, I just feel like the gameplay loop was fun. Like, you had all these different locations, and all the different missions, for the most part, were fun, to where even though there was a handful of them, I never felt fatigued. Now, maybe I just got lucky. I actually went through a couple other games recently where I got a little fatigued of having the same mission over and over, and maybe I just hit things a bit better here, back and forth with what was available. But I don't know, maybe it is just the general gameplay that's that fun. I will make a note too, this presentation you see for the story is only in the DLC, for better or worse, depending on whether you like it or not. I don't know where I stand. I can see an argument for both. Just the more realistic way the main story was, but this I can also appreciate. I felt like the DLC was also a little more difficult than base game, in my opinion. Not that I felt like it was ever too much, especially, like, I noticed, because you can tell I'm not very good at this game, like most games, which is kind of sad considering, how much I play games in that, but I feel like after you failed a couple times, and maybe right when you're about to, get a little frustrated with it, the enemy will lay off you a little more, maybe your objective will be a little easier to take down. And I think that worked out really well, that they had a really good balance there. I don't know, the only issue I can see is, like, I feel like there is a demographic that would, like I said, I feel like this is good, because then, the skilled people who would want the maximum challenge probably aren't failing as much as I am, and then the people who fail aren't dealing with the high difficulty for too unreasonable of a time. But I can imagine there being an in-between of someone who, wants that max difficulty, who may not have that skill level, being, handed over a couple missions. Maybe there's a setting to change that, but That's just one of the things, like, with this game. Like, I had a lot of fun with it, but there are definitely some aspects that I could imagine other people not being too fond of like that. Actually, the one thing I kind of like, too, is I hate sniper missions, but luckily, all you have to do is pick up the sniper. You could immediately pick out the other gun you had and catch up to the group you're supposed to be defending and treat it like another, I don't know if run and gun is the right word, but treat it like a more typical mission. I never got a good hold of some of the other tools you have here with your grapple hook. I was definitely more using just the attachment thing and not so much the boosters or the balloons. As you can see here, yeah, I think I just give up and just start using the attach thing again. I got through most of the game without it. I think the DLC, the previous one with the bugs, you didn't need the boosters for, though. I remember getting stuck trying to figure out what to do for a while there. But yeah, overall, I feel this game is more of what I wanted Far Cry to be. You just, going around, fucking with an oppressive government, building a rebellion, and taking over the island. But just with, a lot more fun of a gameplay loop, and it just felt more satisfying and smooth for me to play. Also, a really heavy, action focus in this game. Like I said, a lot of the core here is going around, blowing up bases, zipping around with your wingsuit and grapple hook like a badass, dodging mass amounts of bullets and enemies. It's a good time. As for the story itself, there's not much to write home about. It's not the strength here, which, once again, when the game is this fun to play, I could care less. I mean, I guess it's passable. I feel like Rico is a very likable protagonist, which is interesting because I tend to, like side characters more than the protagonist most of the time, but in this case, I feel like Rico is probably one of my favorite characters in the game. Just, I don't know, a really smooth, confident, badass. But like I said, I felt like the story just sort of served as, a means to justify what you were doing more than anything. There are other likable characters, though, too, or actually, I feel like most of the cast here was likable. I will say the ending, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I don't know, I came off another couple endings, too, where I just feel like shit gets shoehorned in just to sort of be more on the edge of your seat, unexpected, and I don't know, I'm just kind of getting sick of that type of thing. I don't get why you can't just have a more standard expected ending rather than trying to pull off wacky shit that just doesn't gel with me as much. I mean, like I said, maybe it's the fact that I feel like I've seen this, a few times in a row. I am definitely on the side that, for this instance and some of the other minor complaints, I feel like what you get here was definitely well worth it, though, if you're into that kind of thing. Room to improve, but overall, just a really fun, solid, actiony experience that I would highly recommend if you like that type of stuff.